First of all, thanks for letting me come. We're going to talk just a little bit about new email identity technologies. Will they stop spam? And if not, then what will stop spam? Basically, email identity technologies allow us... Hey, terrific.
Can you get along without it here? Because
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. They do provide some assurance that the domain we're receiving email from is in fact allowed to send email to us. Companies like Citibank can authorize the use of their name to be sending mail. It doesn't protect us from companies like CIT1bank.com. It also allows us to analyze bounces. We can look at the bounces and find out whether this is actually a bounce spam. If you're not familiar with bounce spam, they send a large volume of email to a known bogus address from millions of different addresses so that the bounces are coming back to your customers and bypassing your spam filters. Additionally, it will allow us to analyze the responsibility of the owners. It's kind of like a credit scoring system. It allows us to look at what each domain is sending, how many complaints they're generating, and whether we really want to trust them or not. But it doesn't stop spam. It only forces spammers into other behaviors that we can watch, analyze, and detect much easier. ISPs have to use this technology in order for it to work. Look at us as kind of like a crystal ball. AOL doesn't have all the answers, but I can tell you that what we're seeing today, if you're not seeing it now, you will in the very near future. Bulk mailers comprise 30 to 50% of our daily email volume, but they only constitute 5 to 10% of our complaints every day. More than 80% of the spam that we see reported by our customers comes from other ISPs. Their outbound MTAs, compromised web scripts, and the like contribute the biggest majority of all of our spam. We began to see this back in September of 2003. Everybody else is starting to see it now. We're the biggest spammer on the internet, says Sean Lettner at Comcast. That's a pretty rough quote. But if you don't recognize that there's a problem on your network, then the problem is much bigger than you realize. Eventually, all spam will come from the sources that we trust most, the other ISPs. The networks that are able to detect and shut this down will be the biggest contributors. We've gotten pretty good at blocking zombie machines, but there's a lot more of them out there. They build strength, and they never get inoculated. Our networks tend to trust traffic that comes from inside of our own networks. So if it comes from within our own network, we don't scan it. We don't put spam controls on it. We don't rate limit it. We don't look at the sending patterns to see what they normally send over a period of time. The net result is that we force spammers to send from, again, our trusted sources, our other network operators. So will sender ID, SPF, domain keys, and et cetera is up there because who knows what else will come along. Will that solve spam? No, absolutely not. Spam today continues to follow the guidelines of sender ID. Most spam uses sender ID type technologies effectively, oftentimes better than most of the people in this room. Spammers continue to use ISPs' domains as their from address. ID technologies, however, can allow the automation of blacklisting and whitelisting. It makes management of whitelists and blacklists much more comprehensive and much less tedious. It also allows for a reputation accreditation type systems, which are really the key to the success of sender ID technologies. One last point on this, without SMTP authentication, all we can do is validate domains. We cannot validate users without good, solid SMTP authentication. So what will stop spam? First of all, we got to wake up. We got to realize these guys are on our networks. They need connectivity. They need large numbers of high throughput IP addresses. We need to monitor our networks and take them down. Port 25 is always our responsibility. Anything coming out of our network is our responsibility. Now is the time to shift some of your resources from inbound spam monitoring to outbound spam monitoring. Don't worry just about what's coming into your network. Look about what's going out. We don't let criminals do business out of our living room, but yet we continue to allow them to do business on our networks. We need to enforce strong authentication to authorize the use of our ISP's MTAs. We need to monitor customer sending patterns, like a credit card company monitors fraudulent charges. And if you've got one, monitor, and if you don't, then sign up to receive complaints from other sources on the internet, like AOL's feedback loop system, Spam Cop. Remove sources of spam within minutes. When you've got zombies, insecure CGI scripts, and bad customers and the like, get them off your network, shut them down right away. Here's my shameless plug and contact info. Please take note of my email address. I believe in your slides you've got Carl's. AOL does offer a feedback loop system. We will provide you with a copy of customer complaints that have come from your network in real time. MCI and Level 3 are already doing it. And we have a little saying at our abuse desk that if you can't control the complaints coming from your network, we will. We'll block anyone. In fact, we've become pretty good at blocking our own divisions and explaining how they'll be held responsible and held to a higher standard. Our executive management agrees. If you don't already have a feedback loop system, visit us at postmaster.aol.com/tools/FBL.html and sign up. Also, there's my contact information. You can reach our 24-hour Postmaster hotline as well at 212-5537. Again, that's 888-212-5537. And we're always happy to help. And that's it. Promise to be short and sweet. Bottom line on this really is we've got to start looking at what's coming off of our network, folks. It's a real eye-opener. It's not always something we want to see, but that's where we need to go. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah. Hello. Two quick questions. The first, you're saying that most of the spam you're seeing is coming from other ISPs' mail servers, which seems reasonable. Does that mean effectively that all other ISPs or all ISPs need to stop smart hosting? I mean, have we reached the era where ISPs need to stop accepting mail kind of from anyone that's going through their MTAs?
We really need to just accept responsibility. Anybody that's going to send through our MTA, we're ultimately responsible for. If we can enforce good authentication, then we're good to go. If, as an ISP, you want to allow anybody to send anything off of your ISP, then you need to be aware that you're going to be responsible for it. And ultimately, we're going to end up in a credit-type system where, based upon the amount of spam that your network generates, that's going to determine whether or not your customers are able to send mail. And you really don't have a bad credit score when it boils down to it.
So do you think a reasonable thing for ISPs to do is to require SMTP auth from all of their subscribers, and then, does that allow enough of a feedback mechanism to help fix this problem?
I don't think that that's an end-all solution to it, but I do think it's a good idea. I think it's kind of like locking the front door. It's not going to keep the hardened criminal out, but it is going to provide some degree of safety, and I think that's the first step.
Thank you.
This one on? Yeah. You just described something that sounds dangerously close to settlement-based spamming. i.e., I'm willing to tolerate a certain volume of messages from me as long as you tolerate a certain volume of messages, or vice versa. And that sounds like a very dangerous road to go down, to be honest.
Are you referring to the feedback loop system?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
what we do with the feedback loop system is when we get a piece of email that's reported as spam and it's come from your network, we want to forward it. Whether it's forwarded to an automated process that processes those complaints, whether it just sums up or tallies up the complaints from certain IP addresses, or perhaps it segregates it based upon customer. We want you to be aware of what's coming off of your network. How you deal with it is completely up to you. We've had a lot of companies that have come to us afterwards and said, how do you want us to deal with these? You know, we've got these complaints. What do we do with them? I don't know. Do what you want with them. I mean, it's coming off of your network, and ultimately you're going to be held responsible for it. What's the appropriate action for you to take? Is it to block that customer? Are they on a static IP address? Do you go and contact them and let them know that they're compromised? I know one ISP started taking those reports and using it to disallow access to their customers, and had a phone bank that left a message on their answering machines or contacted them at home and told them that they had a compromised machine, that they needed to get the viri off or the malware off their system, and gave them a toll-free number to call for help. How you deal with it is completely up to you, but if you've got it coming off your system, we're happy to show you what it is and let you deal with it however you see fit.
The way your system works now, basically, it sends you an email when you've reached a certain amount past the threshold. I think it's 1%. Wouldn't it be smart to allow people to track what the percentage of the complaints is before it becomes a problem?
Absolutely. I think what you're referring to is a report card system. Report card is another process that we have that when you exceed a certain percentage of complaints based upon the amount of mail you send, or when you exceed a certain bounce percentage, we will send you an automated report card the following day to say, by the way, here's what your hosts or your network did yesterday. Feedback loop system is a little bit different, and it does provide exactly what you're telling me or asking for, and that is a real-time feed of what's coming off your network. A lot of people use that as a gauge to determine when they have a problem. And they can watch network spikes. They'll see these complaints come in and go, wow, you know, this is really weird. I'm getting all these complaints at the same time I'm losing bandwidth. You know, what's the correlation here? And they go back and look, and sure enough, they have a new set of zombies on their network.
Well, the specific problem that I'm talking about is, I have many customers that send a lot of mail. I run a hosting company, and we receive a feedback loop email, but it's very difficult to correlate what's necessarily a problem just because of the volume of the email that gets sent to us. It's a lot of information to figure out what's happening with that. And I mean, if there was a way to look at the data that you use for your report card system to see it's approaching a threshold, it's going up instead of going down, instead of just getting the email when it's a problem, it might give people more of an idea that it's becoming a problem.
AOL actually does an awful lot on metrics, and we look at spam statistics, email statistics, just in general, very well. And I think that you'll see more and more of that type of thing in the very near future. That's something we're very interested in. A lot of people come to us and tell us, you know what, my company's just not buying into this thing. You know, they want us to stop spam reaching our customers. They're not so worried about spam reaching your customers. That's your problem. To that we say, well, you know, what if we give you the help? What if we start telling you where your problems are? It sounds ridiculous that we would do something like that because we all manage our own networks, and yet we would allow a third party to come and tell us. But a lot of people are asking for it now. They want a list of IP addresses that are compromised at any given time. They also want to know what their spam complaint rate is or what their mail delivery volume is at any point in time. And that's something I think that you'll see in the very near future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Sure.
Is our next speaker here?
Sorry, a little late. Anything that AOL is doing to improve their users from using the spam button as the delete button?
Well, you know, it's not easy to educate 30 million consumers. But we do have to take that into consideration. Certainly, if you get an email that's reported as spam, you don't need to worry about your network being blocked unless you have a number of other issues, lack of reverse DNS or credit history, if you will, that speaks for itself. So other than that, there's not a whole lot more you can do to educate somebody.
Real quickly, does the web form take CIDR-based addresses? The example doesn't make it look like it does.
You know, I don't think it does. So there is a comments section, and believe it or not, somebody actually does look at these. Got a team in Internet Services, and then it ultimately reaches my team, which is the Postmaster team. And they do look at these and determine whether or not they're appropriate. If you actually have a CIDR range that you need to put in there, we'll take a look at that. Very oftentimes, though, we find that CIDR ranges aren't really necessary. I mean, how many mail hosts, outbound mail hosts, does any one company really need? I mean, for our 30 million subscribers, we're looking at 20, 30. Thank you again.